Hi there. I'm Matt Stanley, co founder of Think Digital Partners, and I'm here today with Joe Thompson, CTO of Hedgehog Lab. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Matt. Very nice to be here.
Good to see you again. So, we've been working together for a few months now, and we recently worked together on one of our conferences, the Think Digital Government Conference back in May. And I just wondered if you could kind of share a little bit about some of the conversations that you were having with some of the public sector delegates on the day, just to give a feel for how you felt it and how you found the day.
Yeah, it was a really lovely day, actually. Really nice. Nice to have so many people being so open about the challenges they face. And it's always nice to triangulate, understand that there's quite a lot of people are up against the same things. And I think interpreting the world in similar moments. So, yeah, really, really lovely to have the opportunity to have so many chats. And not just with the public sector, but also some of the third sector partners that were there too.
Yes, yeah, there was a lot on the day. And so on the day you spoke about, you were on a panel session that talked about digital inclusion. So I thought we could kind of like focus on that for a bit today. So from your point of view, kind of why is digital inclusion really important at the moment?
Yes. Yeah. Digital inclusion is something I think about a lot, actually. And I think I've been interested in it for a while. And it's never been, I think, more on my mind than it is right now. And specifically, I think there's a concern. More and more of the world is going to digital to the point that we talk less about digital being a channel and more it is the default channel. It's the default front door for a whole range of businesses and crucially for government and public services as well. What I feel very strongly is that we haven't really had the conversation yet about how well that works for people for whom digital is not an easy and convenient path. Um, which perhaps is not most people, but it's certainly a very significant number of people. And I'm really passionate to make sure that as we build those experiences on digital, that they do work for everyone and that we understand that they work for everyone.
Yeah. No, I agree. And so if you're building these products and these services, how do you know what's the markers for when you can actually identify whether or not the product and service is a good one?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think historically people have been a bit dismissive about this. And for a long time, there's been a requirement, a statutory duty to meet accessibility standards in your designs, which is good, but it's a very shallow measure of how usable your product is. Really, what that's saying is that it works with assistive technology. I'm afraid the answer I'm going to give you is rather old fashioned. There is no way to know that your service is working for everyone without doing really comprehensive research, sitting
Yeah.
down with people and understanding what are their barriers to accessing a service and designing a service around what you learn.
Yeah, definitely. And so why do you think it's becoming increasingly important right now?
Well, as I said earlier, I think the main thing is that digital didn't used to be the default. And even since it's become fairly ubiquitous, there have been other options. You know, with government is I think a little bit newer. We've heard a lot about for instance, banks closing their branches. You know, lots of businesses now will do almost anything they can to stop you trying to call them and speak to a human with quite often the robot on the phone will be telling you, check out our website, everything you need on our website, log in here, and all of that is true. The cost to serve can be much, much more attractive on digital channels. But to this point, it's not clear that people have really done the work on who is struggling, who misses out when we do that. And so I think as we come into a quarter of the way through the 21st century, yes, it is very clearly the default channel for a huge majority of services for the huge majority of people. But we need to make sure we're not building a world that actually locks people out of certain interactions. We're in very difficult territory for a lot of reasons. And I think it's, how to say it? Yeah, I think it's quite pernicious in a way because it feels like progress. And it may well be the case that it's progress. And of course, we should recognize there are some groups that are far better served through digital channels, but inclusion and all that that means. So it's not just about accessibility. It's about familiarity. It's about access to devices and connectivity. It's about cognitive ability to read things and interact that way. All of these kind of things, I think, need to be looked at through a really critical lens. And I like these conversations. I like talking about these things with digital leaders because very often this is not a message that you get from the top. This is not in strategy. It's digital leaders and product managers and designers that are making these calls. And so it's really important that at the practitioner level, we have the really good understanding of how important the work that we do really is.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, I mean, inclusion and accessibility is really important in every industry and every sector, but so much so in kind of like public services, isn't it?
Yeah, and I I don't think it's okay, but you can see there is an argument. A lot of commercial businesses can make a judgment call about that,
Mm.
and they can say, well, we're aiming for a demographic where digital inclusion is not a material concern. We've made a commercial decision that that is not our market, and so we deprioritize the thinking and the research and the design around those services. Obviously, in public services, that's very much not the case, and certain services are targeted at certain demographics, of course. But there is this universal expectation that public services are for everybody, and there is this lovely definition of inclusion actually, which is that you've got your inclusion right when everybody feels like your product is for them. And I think that that's something that is quite easily forgotten.
That's a great little soundbite, actually. I like that. So, okay, do you feel then that the digital world is becoming more or less safe for vulnerable users?
I suspect it's becoming less safe at the moment. I think the accessibility tools are becoming better, and we're seeing with interfaces and devices and AI that there are more opportunities to better embrace accessibility. But I think the ubiquity of digital and the declining investment in traditional channels, it creates some real risks there that are not super understood at the moment. And I think in the same way as I said a minute ago, with financial services institutions are closing their branches or have closed a lot of branches, and that creates some barriers. There are a lot of government services that were previously delivered face to face, or parts of services even that were delivered face to face, where the expectation is now that they'll be done digitally. And
Yeah.
it's very unclear to me the impacts of that are really well understood, and the mitigations needed to protect vulnerable users there have been adequately put in place.
Cool. And so, okay, a kind of final question, I suppose. Is there more opportunity at the moment, or is there more of a? Are you more worried about the threats of this situation?
No, look, I'm an optimist, and I think you probably haven't got it from this conversation, but I'm actually an optimist about technology. I genuinely believe in the ability of technology to transform people's lives for the better. Um, and not just in that narrow sense that the dream we've been sold of the kind of 24/7 when it suits you self-service convenience model, but actually it creates so many opportunities to make things better for people. So yeah, I think that there are lots of things there that we can do. Things like the even simple things like the AI transcribing agents, for instance, they create the opportunity to introduce relatively inexpensive voice interfaces for services that can work really well. And AI generally in the right context, um, it can turn really complicated instructions into really simple things for people, or help people understand what they're up against. Obviously, with translations, it can work really well now. So I think that, there is a lot of opportunity there to harness technology to make things better. This sounds like a silly thing to say. I think to say I'm a little bit unconvinced by the mobile revolution. Clearly, the mobile revolution, I think that argument is settled. I am very much convinced by it. But again, to my point earlier, it feels like we're very ready to accept that a 5-inch screen that you operate with the edges of your thumbs is the right interface for everybody, without a really good consideration of who they are, where they are, and what they're able and trying to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, well, really good to catch up with you. I think we are seeing you again in a couple of weeks' time at our data event. So I look forward to catching up properly then.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Thank you very
All
much,
right.
Matt.
Take care, Joe. Nice to see you.
Cheers.
Bye
Goodbye.
now.